Okay, so one of the things that happens is when executive actions are taken or when some other kinds of formal process are engaged, there's often a variety of concurrent processes that are ongoing. And this is one of the reasons why I believe that the changes that removed the requirements concerning prior disclosure regarding conflicts of interest, including for board members of either corporations or other entities, that was part of some previous legislative efforts engaged by Congress, was not only unwise, but intentionally done in order to aid and abet sort of risk leveraging to determine how much crime organized crime actors who had infiltrated the government could get away with. Now, you may want to argue, well, that's a pretty extreme assessment. Well, let me tell you how extreme the assessment is. There's two articles right now that are coming up on my web browser. I purchased my web browser, the program of the web browser, along with the package for my software that I use on my computer. I purchased it myself. Not only did I purchase it myself and put it in the name of my LLC, but I had to repurchase it because when I first purchased it, they refused to give me my own operating license. Somebody stole the operating license for the software I purchased. Now, I repurchased it and I have a software operating license. But one of the things that's been happening for a consistent period of time, and it's been happening for several years, is that somebody opens up an account with my identity and something goes wrong. Oh, I'm sorry, there was a mistake. We're going to have to do this again. As a matter of fact, every single time I've attempted to apply for a job for the last 3 years, that's what happens. Every time I try to open up an official account with an agency, that's what happens. And so I'm working the second account. And meanwhile, I end up having to process all of this information and deal with all the consequences of whatever is the liability that's been waived off onto me based on whoever it was that hijacked the first account and uses it. So, what's coming up right now? Well, the first thing I saw was an article talking about a cold case concerning a 12-year-old from Idaho whose body was found in July of 2019. You may recall, if you've been at all following any of my public announcements, that I received my replacement, my third, by the way, replacement birth certificate after several personal identity documents had been stolen without any redress in July of 2019. It's dated for July of 2019. And this 35-year-old cold case ended up resulting in the body being found in July of 2019. And yet today is the day that they're posting a public notice concerning finding the body of a 35-year-old cold case involving a 12-year-old who was kidnapped and murdered. There's also a story, right corollary with it, that the Dallas Fort Worth area has revealed that a young man who was out in the wilderness, right? Not like Wilderness Hole, I'm sure, but out in the wilderness, died. His body's been discovered. This young man does not fit the same racial or demographic profile as the earlier young woman, but they were both published on the same day. Now, I understand that somebody took my prior identity documents and opened up all kinds of other accounts they've been using for all kinds of crime. I've received absolutely no assistance in going on 5 years with matters such as these from anybody. Okay. Well, whatever the justification was, what I understand is today that the situation at the highest risk level that has to be considered needs to understand that tomorrow is the 14-day appeal period end. Tomorrow's the 14th day that I could appeal what I understand to be an abuse of the judicial process that was attempting to try to extort me into cooperation. But that would also be 19 days short of 1 year. 6 months from now. 6 months from today would be September 28th, right? Tomorrow would be the 29th. You know what that means? That would be 19 days after September 10th of 2021. What happened on September 10th of 2020? It just so happens that article involving the 12-year-old makes reference to a mayor, a mayoral candidate. I'm sorry, a gubernatorial candidate. A gubernatorial candidate who got covered by a mayoral candidate, by a mayor. Tomorrow, the expiration of that 14-day appeal period would correlate with 6 months being 19 days after September 10th of 2021. You know what you did. That's pretty much the highest level of extortion I can think of. You either re-up or we're going to strategically murder a bunch of children we imported and put on your credit. That's exactly what it is. And I know it. I'm not filing the appeal. You've been called out. I also know that despite the fact that a major security connected to that arrangement last year, despite the fact it came due last November, that last week, while this appeal period was pending, Treasury authorized an announcement on a reissue. Why would the Department of Treasury authorize a reissue on a short-term security that had already come due? So you need to take it up with whoever is financing you. I contend it's treason. I contend it is treason to strategically import people from another country so that you can use them as extortion and blackmail, up to and including murdering them in order to defraud citizens of your own country into cooperating with, aiding, and abetting the enemies of the United States and the state and the people of Texas. And that's exactly what you're doing. And the worst part is you're doing it in abuse of your office as a government official, with a lot of other people abusing their office as a government official, and from what I hear, in consideration of somebody claiming that they have authority based on being bonded as a first responder. You're going to need to deal with that.